I did the Wayne and Schuster touring show, and it started in Charlottetown, PEI, and this is before the Charlottetown Festival was established. And it was one of the numbers in the show. We were supposed to be the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and we all got knocked out during the course of the game. And a wonderful lady called Carlu Carter, she was the original, well, I don't know the original, but she was a prima ballerina with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet Company. And then she became part of the Carlu Carter dance trio with Bill McGrath and Vic. And anyway, as we get knocked out, Carlu's in the wings, on point shoes, and a tutu, and a long sparkler. And she's wearing a tiara. And she's the good fairy. She's going to revive us all when we get knocked out. Anyway, the theater had only been built like a month or so before, and nothing had been fireproofed, and one of the legs on stage right's side, she was supposed to enter just in front of it. When they lit the sparkler, they also lit the side, and it was going up in flames, so they threw a bucket of water over it and drenched Carlu from the tiara down to her tutu. And anyway, she came on, we were all passed out, and she's supposed to come on point and say, "Bless you, wake up. Bless you, wake up." She came and says, "Fucking wake up. Fucking wake up. Fucking wake up." We were all the bodies on the stage are going like this with laughter, you know. But anyway, another show after that, which Maver Moore had written and directed and produced, because Maver was the original producer of the Charlottetown Festival. He did the Wayne and Schuster Touring Review, and we opened again in Charlottetown. But when we first arrived in PEI, that initial trip, we came in from the airport on a double-decker bus, and there was a big billboard outside the airport put up by the Lions Club, and it was a huge billboard. It said, "Welcome to Charlottetown," but the giant C had dropped off, so it said, "Welcome to Harlottetown." Jack Northmore was peeing himself. Everyone roared, you know. But anyway, we're on. One of the numbers of the show was a number which Maver had written and staged, and it was a song, a nice ballad, as I remember. Leanne Marshall sang it, and it was a woman taking off all the clothing effects that she would wear, like a wig and gloves and beads and the falsies. And anyway, it was just a suggestive set, and in the blackout, the falsies and everything else is on this little dressing table. And in the blackout, the rubber tits fall onto the stage floor. The next number is something we'd done on TV, and it was an Indian number. And when we all came on, you know, dressed as Indians, what we thought were Indians, going, and all that. And the two rubber tits that from the song previously were on the stage. They'd fallen off. And so one of the performers came on and kicked it, and all it did was bounce like this. So we had a bouncing tit and a still tit, and Jack Northmore came on and gave a drop kick to one of them. It went flying into the wings. The audience applauded. And finally, the last one got kicked into the wings. Well, the audience just roared. Johnny Wayne was beside himself because it was the biggest laugh in the show at that point. So, anyway, he was demanding the number be cut. And Maver said, "Oh, no, it's a good number, and leave it with me, I'll do something." So anyway, Maver, bless his inventive heart, he said he'd just reverse it all. So instead of coming on with all the attachments, you'd start putting the attachments in and the wig and whatever. So you ended fully dressed. And it worked beautifully, you know. So the number never was cut. But and of course, Maver was, you know, the founding producer for Charlottetown. And a wonderful man, and nothing was beyond him. He, well, everything he did in the theater was just amazing. He even made shoes for the shoe dance for the second act in Anna Gables, where we come out with the shoes wrapped down our neck, but they had to be made specially because you have to just slip them on, whereas the other boots we wore were all laced up and tied. And anyway, we had to put them on in one move, so they had to be made, and they were made like a very soft fabric, practically paper mache. And Maver, bless his heart, was out there in the prop room for days making these things, gluing them, painting them, sewing the shoelaces in, nothing. Nothing was beyond it. But I think that was one of my fun experiences. Well, there was one story. I know when we toured with Anne, on one of the tours, we left Charlottetown, we opened in Victoria, and we all checked into the hotel and just ready to call the night. And the production manager came around knocking on all the doors, the mail doors, saying, "We need help at the theater, right? You've got to come help us." So we all go down to the theater. It was an IATSE house, but the IATSE men, like, it was Victoria, so they're all retired. And there wasn't one under the shade of 80, and they're all sitting there in the orchestra. And what had happened, it had been so long since the theater had been used, they had to rehang the ropes, and then we had to hang the drops. We were there all bloody night, just hanging ropes and drops, and then going on and performing. That was experience. In 1967, I'd been on tour with something, I forget what, but I was hired to do the Katimovich Review at Expo, and then I'd been in it for about 3 months, and Alan Lunn came through town and said, "Are you enjoying doing the show?" And I said, "Oh yeah, that's wonderful." And he said, "Oh good. Well, I expect you in Charlottetown a week Thursday. Don't be late." I went, "Oh, yeah." Well, the Katimovich Review paid a lot more than Charlottetown, but I was under contract, so I went to Charlottetown. I was a day late. He gave me shit. Well, it wasn't a full day late. I lost my cat on the way. Anyway, that's another story. But anyway, in Charlottetown, after we did a special Royal Command performance for her Royal Highness the Queen Mother, and so we're all taken upstairs to a reception after the show and all lined up to meet her. And Maver was escorting her down the line with Bob Doubley, the manager. And anyway, they're going down the line and they pass people like Dougie Chamberlain and Diane Island and whatever. They get to me, and Maver all of a sudden doesn't remember my name. And he turns around to Bob Doubley, and Bob Doubley goes, "The Queen Mother, bless her heart," she put her hand out. She said, "I really enjoyed your performance." I said, "Well, thank you." And she said, "I see where you're from Australia." Like she'd read the program. I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, one of my favorite ballet companies is the Borovansky Ballet Company." She said, "I've always admired their work," which eventually I turned into the National Ballet of Australia. And she said, "Now, are you going to be coming to England with the show?" And we'd only heard a rumor like a year before that the show may be going to England, but not with us. They'd cast it over there. And I said, "Well, I don't know, Your Majesty." And she said, "Well, I certainly hope so. It'd be nice to see you there." And I thought, "Oh, that's a personal invitation." I said, "Well, thank you, ma'am." And because everyone wanted to know why she talking to you so long, And I said, "Well, she wanted to know where the bathroom was." But when I got over to England, because I was cast as Gilbert to go to England, and I remember at the airport, you had to go through immigration, and the immigration officer took me to an office which had glass all around it, and he said, "Now you're here to work." I said, "Yeah," and like I was part of the British Commonwealth and all that, but that didn't count then. It was after the date when everyone could go there. But anyway, he said, "Okay, well, I have to speak to the guy that signed this contract." So I said, "Oh, that's so and so, the company manager." And he got him on the phone and said, "Okay." He said, "Okay." He stamps it. He said, "There you go. Good for 6 months." He said, "But that's the kind of riffraff we're trying to keep out." And there had been a plane landed from, I don't know if it was the Caribbean or the South Africa, but all the passengers were black. And he said, "That's the kind of riffraff we're trying to keep out." And I said, "Oh, okay." And that just gave me a big eye opener. I thought, it never used to be like that in the early 60s when I was there. But the prejudice was quite open. But anyway. So I did Gilbert, and the Queen Mum never did come and see me. So, I used to send the flowers every week. Love Gilbert. I forget what year Belinda was first mounted. But anyway, I think Di, she was in Anne. I think she played Josie Pye in Anne. And then she was cast by Alan as Belinda, the title role. And it's the first time I'd seen her in that kind of intensity as an actor. And she really set the bar. To the whole company, because I mean, we all had gifted people there, like Barbara Hamilton, Kate Reid, Alfie Scott, or whatever, and all accomplished and established people. But people like Di and well, the rest of us younger members were we didn't have that much of a track record. We didn't know each other's work and things like that. But she was a very fine actor, and like I said, she set the bar with that role with Belinda. And I remember the set was a bit awkward to work on because, as I recall, it was in three. You had the stage proscenium, and then you had on stage right a lower by about 1.5 feet of a platform, and then another lower platform which was raked right towards the orchestra pit. And it was very tricky to work on, and you had to really know your own space. And unfortunately, one of the actors was quite pissed one night, and nearly pulled me off the ramp and into the orchestra pit along with himself. And I was not amused, and I gave him shit. But the poor man, I mean, he had a problem, and but one of the main problems was, I mean, we've all dealt with, drinkers and drugs and whatever in the business with individuals, and I guess everybody handles them a bit differently depending what the capacity is. And Jean was an alcoholic, a still recovering one, I believe, at that time. But anyway, he fell off the wagon big time, and nearly pulled me into the pit. But also in Belinda, there was one scene there where Belinda's on stage by herself. And it's a very intense scene because she's using sign language and things. And you really needed the focus. The backdrop was a half drop with a window in it. And we're all in the wings waiting to get on from stage right side. And we look out, and there's Jean Cavell. His head arrives up, and he's looking out the window of this drop. He doesn't know where he is. He's looking around, and then he lowers himself down. Then he went to the end of the drop, the half drop, and he's on his hands and knees, and he's looking around like this. Actually, he's gone. The stage manager whipped him out by his legs into the wings. But the man didn't know what show he was in. He didn't know what scene it was. He didn't even know what day it was. So he had no way of knowing. He didn't know if it was in Belinda, Anne, or the man in the moon has a baby. You know, it was just all gone. You think, oh well, you know. But yeah, that was a Belinda experience. But I admired. I always have, you know, not just as a performer, but as a director and choreographer. And she was an integral part of the business.